The phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Caleb Marsh set down his sander and grabbed it. Naomi's name with a voicemail icon. Strange. She was upstairs, probably already asleep. Caleb pressed play, expecting maybe a pocket dial or some mundane reminder about tomorrow's grocery run. Instead, his wife's voice filled the silent garage. Breathless, hushed, electric with excitement. The way he pulled me into the back storage room. I haven't stopped thinking about it, Tash. His hands, his mouth. I swear, I almost... The message cut off abruptly. Deleted. Caleb's hands went numb. The crown molding clattered to the floor. 23 years of construction work had taught him to read blueprints. Measure twice, cut once. But nothing had prepared him to decode the blueprint of betrayal he'd just heard. 2 minutes later, Naomi appeared in the workshop doorway wearing her silk pajamas, the ones he'd bought her for their 5th anniversary last month. Her green eyes scanned his face like a security camera, searching for any tell that might give away what he knew. "Hey, babe," she said, voice artificially casual. "Coming to bed soon?" Caleb nodded, not trusting his voice. "Just finishing up this cabinet door. 5 more minutes." She lingered, studying him. "Everything okay? You look tense? Long day?" He forced a smile, the kind he'd perfected during difficult client meetings. "Go ahead up. I'll be there soon." After her footsteps faded up the stairs, Caleb sat in his workshop chair, staring at his phone. The message was gone, but the words echoed in his head like a hammer hitting concrete. His hands, his mouth. For 5 years, he'd built their life with the same precision he brought to home renovations. Every beam carefully placed, every joint perfectly fitted. And now, in 30 seconds of misdirected audio, he watched it all crumble. He pulled up Naomi's contact info and scrolled through their recent conversations. Nothing suspicious, but that meant nothing now. She'd gotten sloppy with one message. There had to be more. Caleb opened his laptop and logged into their shared cloud account. If Naomi was having an affair, she was documenting it somewhere. People always did, thinking they were being careful while leaving digital fingerprints everywhere. The backup files loaded slowly. Photos from their move to Brookridge 3 months ago. Videos of their new house. And then, buried in a folder labeled Fitness Journey, he found them. Screenshots of conversations with someone named Mason. Photos that made his stomach clench. A shared Spotify playlist titled Secret Blend. The timestamp showed the playlist was created 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks of lies, smiles over breakfast, and "I love you too" responses. Caleb methodically downloaded everything to an encrypted external drive. Every photo, message, song on that cursed playlist. His contractor's mind was already working, planning. But first, he needed to understand the full extent of the damage. The next morning, Caleb kissed Naomi goodbye like he had every day for 5 years. She was heading to her 9 a.m. barre class at Elmwood Bar in Bloom, the boutique fitness studio where she'd been spending increasingly more time. "I might grab coffee after," she said, adjusting her designer workout outfit. "Tasha wants to try that new place downtown." After she left, Caleb called his job site and told his crew he'd be delayed. Then he drove to Elmwood, parking across the street with a clear view of the entrance. At 10:15, Naomi emerged with 3 other women, all perfectly coiffed, all carrying designer water bottles. Caleb recognized Tasha from neighborhood parties, tall, blonde, married to an accountant named Richard. The other 2 were new faces. They walked 2 blocks to Grind Coffee, a trendy spot with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. Through the window, Caleb watched Naomi light up as a dark-haired man behind the counter smiled at her. Barista Mason. Caleb spent the next 3 hours conducting surveillance like a detective. He watched Mason slip Naomi an extra pastry, watched her friends giggle and whisper while shooting knowing looks between Naomi and the barista, watched his wife of 5 years flirt with another man while her wedding ring caught the morning sunlight. When the group finally left, Caleb followed at a distance. They didn't go back to the gym. Instead, they drove to Ivy Harrison's house, a sprawling suburban palace in Brookridge's most expensive neighborhood. Caleb parked down the block and opened his laptop, connecting to his cellular hotspot. If these women were as careless with digital security as Naomi had been with that voice message, he might learn more than he bargained for. He started with social media, cross-referencing the faces he'd seen. Tasha Reynolds, married to Richard for 8 years. Ivy Harrison, married to David, a successful real estate developer. Brenda Chen, married to Marcus, a local business owner. All 3 women followed the same pattern on Instagram. Carefully curated photos of their perfect marriages, expensive vacations, and fitness achievements. But Caleb had learned to read between the lines of social media facades. The real story was often in what people didn't post. His phone buzzed with a text from Naomi. Coffee running long, home by 2, love you. Caleb stared at the message, then at Ivy's house where his wife's car was still parked. Love you. The words felt like sandpaper against his soul. He opened his laptop's audio recording software and began documenting everything. Timestamps, locations, lies. If this was going to court, and increasingly it felt like it would, he needed evidence that would hold up under legal scrutiny. That evening, while Naomi showered, Caleb cloned her phone. The software he'd downloaded worked quickly, creating a mirror of her device on his laptop. Within minutes, he had access to every app, message, and deleted photo she thought was gone forever. The group chat was called Bare Babes. The name made him want to punch something. Tasha. Ladies' lunch tomorrow? I need to debrief about this morning. That trainer at CrossFit is becoming a serious distraction. Ivy. Count me in. David's working late again, so I'm free until 8. Perfect timing. Brenda. You know I'm always down for gossip. Marcus thinks I'm at book club anyway. Naomi. Yes, I need to talk about Mason. Things are getting complicated. Tasha. Good complicated or bad complicated. Naomi. Good. Very good. But I think Caleb might be getting suspicious. Caleb's jaw clenched as he read his wife casually discussing her infidelity with her friends. But it got worse. Ivy. Honey, husbands are oblivious. David hasn't noticed I've been working late 3 nights a week for 2 months. Brenda. Marcus actually thanked me for getting so into fitness. He thinks that's why I'm glowing. If only he knew it was because Jake from yoga bends me like a pretzel twice a week. The messages continued for pages. These women had turned adultery into a social club, complete with inside jokes, shared alibis, and detailed discussions of their various affairs. Caleb screenshot everything, organizing files by date and participant. But the smoking gun came in a voice message from Tasha, sent 3 days ago. Girls, I just had the most amazing realization. We're not cheating. We're empowering ourselves. We're taking control of our desires, our bodies, our lives. Our husbands should be thanking us for being more confident, more alive. This is self-care at its finest. Naomi's response. You're so right, Tash. I feel more like myself with Mason than I have in years. Caleb's sweet, but he's so predictable. Mason makes me feel dangerous. Caleb closed the laptop and sat in his darkened office, fury building in his chest like steam in a pressure cooker. These women weren't just cheating. They were celebrating it, justifying it, turning it into some twisted form of feminism. His phone buzzed with a text from Naomi. Thanks for being patient while I find myself in this new town. I love you so much. You're my rock. The hypocrisy was staggering. While she publicly proclaimed her love, she was privately telling her friends he was predictable, boring. Well, she was about to learn that the quiet ones were often the most dangerous when pushed too far. Caleb opened a new document on his computer and began typing. Operation Barbecue. Planning document. He had always been meticulous in his work. This would be no different. Over the next 2 weeks, Caleb became a ghost in his own life. He went to work, came home, had dinner with Naomi, and played the part of the devoted husband. But underneath the routine, he was gathering intelligence like a military operation. He installed micro-recorders in Naomi's car, devices so small they looked like pen caps tucked into the seat cushions. He set up GPS tracking on her phone through their shared family plan. He even hired a private investigator named Janet Torres, a former cop who specialized in infidelity cases. Most cheaters are creatures of habit, Janet explained during their first meeting at a diner across town. They think they're being spontaneous, but they follow patterns. Same time, same places, same excuses. She was right. Mason worked Tuesday and Thursday mornings at Grind Coffee. Those were the days Naomi had extended workouts. The pattern was so obvious that Caleb wondered how he'd missed it before. But the real revelation came when Janet showed him the surveillance photos from Ivy's house. Your wife's friends aren't just enablers, Janet said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. They're co-conspirators. This is organized. The photos showed all 4 women meeting at Ivy's house every Monday afternoon. But they weren't alone. Janet had captured images of strange cars in the driveway, different men coming and going. Tasha's trainer, Marcus. Brenda's yoga instructor, Jake. Ivy's meeting some guy who's definitely not her husband. And your wife's barista shows up every other week. Caleb studied the photos, his anger crystallizing into something colder, more focused. They're coordinating schedules. Exactly. They're covering for each other, providing alibis, even sharing resources. Janet's expression was grim. I've seen a lot of affairs, Mr. Marsh, but this level of organization is unusual. They've turned cheating into a support group. That night, Caleb listened to the audio recordings from Naomi's car. The conversations with her friends were casual discussions of elaborate deceptions. I told Richard I'm training for a marathon. Tasha's voice crackled through the speakers. He's actually proud of my dedication. Meanwhile, Marcus the trainer is giving me a very different kind of workout. Naomi laughed. David thinks Ivy's taking evening art classes. She's getting painted all right, just not the way he imagines. What about you, Naomi? How are things with the coffee boy? Amazing. Mason wants to go to Portland for a weekend. I'm thinking of telling Caleb I need a girls' spa retreat. Perfect. We can cover for you. Girls' weekend in wine country. We've used that one before. Caleb stopped the recording. He'd heard enough. These women had constructed an entire alternate reality, complete with fictional activities and mutual alibis. But every construction project needed a demolition phase first. I want to throw a barbecue, Caleb announced over breakfast on a Saturday morning. It's been 3 months since we moved here. Time to really get to know our new friends. Naomi looked up from her organic yogurt, surprised. That's sudden. You've never been big on entertaining. New town, new me, Caleb said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I've been thinking about what you said. About making connections, building community. You're right. We should socialize more. Okay. Naomi still looked puzzled. Who were you thinking of inviting? Your fitness friends and their husbands. Tasha and Richard, Ivy and David, Brenda and Marcus. Keep it small and intimate. Really get to know each other. Something flickered across Naomi's face. Was it panic? But she recovered quickly. That sounds great, honey. When? Next Saturday. I'll handle everything. The grilling, the setup, even the entertainment. Caleb reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I want this to be perfect. Memorable. Naomi smiled, but her fingers were tense in his grip. You're full of surprises lately. You have no idea. That afternoon, while Naomi was at yoga, Caleb's GPS tracker showed she was actually at Mason's apartment. He began preparing. He power washed the back deck, set up string lights, and tested the new outdoor projector system he'd installed on the fence. But the real preparation was digital. Caleb spent hours editing surveillance footage, audio recordings, and screenshots into a comprehensive presentation. He organized it chronologically, building a narrative that would be impossible to deny or explain away. The private investigator had provided the final pieces: photos of Naomi and Mason in Portland last weekend, the girls' spa retreat that was actually a romantic getaway, images of all 4 women entering a boutique hotel with their various lovers, even credit card receipts showing Ivy had paid for everyone's rooms. On Tuesday, he drove to each husband's workplace and delivered handwritten invitations. He wanted to see their faces, gauge their personalities, understand who he was dealing with. Richard Reynolds was a soft-spoken accountant who seemed genuinely excited about the invitation. Tasha's mentioned you and Naomi several times. She's really enjoyed getting to know your wife. David Harrison was all business handshakes and expensive suits. Saturday works. Ivy's been talking about your wife's fitness group nonstop. Apparently, they're very motivating for each other. Marcus Chen was the most suspicious, studying Caleb with intelligent eyes. You know, I don't think we've ever actually met, despite our wives being so close. This should be interesting. Each man accepted the invitation with enthusiasm, unaware they were RSVPing to the end of their marriages. Saturday morning dawned clear and warm, perfect barbecue weather. Caleb had been up since 5 a.m., marinating ribs, preparing sides, and doing final sound checks on his equipment. Everything had to be perfect. By 4 p.m., the backyard looked like something from a home and garden magazine. The deck was spotless, the grill was heating, and soft music played from hidden speakers. The first to arrive were Tasha and Richard. Tasha wore a flowing summer dress and oversized sunglasses, while Richard carried a bottle of wine and looked genuinely happy to be there. This is beautiful, Tasha gushed, surveying the setup. Caleb, you've outdone yourself. The evening's just getting started, Caleb replied. Ivy and David arrived next. David immediately gravitated toward the expensive outdoor kitchen setup, asking technical questions about the grill and sound system. Marcus and Brenda were the last to arrive. Marcus brought craft beer and seemed more relaxed than he'd been at his office. Brenda looked stunning in designer jeans and a silk blouse, but Caleb noticed her checking her phone repeatedly. Expecting an important call? He asked casually. Brenda startled. Oh, just my sister. She's been going through a difficult time. Caleb nodded sympathetically. The GPS tracker showed no one named Sister in Brenda's contacts, but someone named Jake Yoga had been texting her all afternoon. By 6 p.m., everyone was settled on the deck with drinks and appetizers. The conversation flowed easily. Neighborhood gossip, local restaurants, upcoming events. To an outside observer, they looked like four happily married couples enjoying a perfect evening. "These ribs are incredible," David said, taking a large bite. "What's your secret?" "Time and patience," Caleb replied. "Good things come to those who wait." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Caleb stood and raised his beer bottle. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. When Naomi and I moved to Brookridge, we hoped to find not just a new home, but a new community, new friends, people we could trust completely." The wives shifted uncomfortably, but the husbands smiled and raised their drinks. "To new friendships," Richard said warmly. "To trust," David added. "To knowing who your real friends are," Caleb concluded, his eyes meeting each wife's gaze in turn. They drank, unaware they were toasting their own destruction. As darkness fell, Caleb slipped into his workshop and powered up the projection system he'd spent weeks perfecting. When he returned to the deck, everyone was relaxed and slightly buzzed. "Perfect. I thought we might watch something together," Caleb announced, pulling out a sleek remote control. "I installed this new outdoor entertainment system." "That sounds lovely," Ivy said. Caleb pressed a button, and the fence-mounted screen flickered to life. "I put together a little presentation about our community, some photos from around town, local events, that sort of thing." The first images were innocent enough, shots of downtown Brookridge, the park, local businesses, everyone relaxed, making comments about their favorite spots around town. Then the images changed. The first photo showed Naomi and Mason outside Grind Coffee, standing much closer than necessary. Mason's hand was on her lower back, her face turned up toward his with an expression of pure adoration. Naomi went white. "Caleb, what is this?" "Just documenting our new life here," he said calmly, advancing to the next image. This one showed Tasha in a parking lot, locked in a passionate embrace with a muscular man who definitely wasn't Richard. The timestamp read 3 days ago. Richard choked on his beer. "Tasha? Who was that?" But Caleb was already moving to the next slide. Ivy, in what appeared to be a hotel room, with a man whose face was clearly visible in the mirror behind them. David shot to his feet, his chair clattering backward. "What the heck is this?" The screen changed again. Brenda, in a yoga studio after hours, engaged in activities that had nothing to do with Downward Dog. Marcus stood slowly, his face dark with rage. "Brenda, look at me." But Caleb wasn't finished. The slideshow continued with surgical precision. Text messages, hotel receipts, GPS logs showing exactly where each wife had been when they claimed to be elsewhere. "Turn it off!" Naomi screamed, lunging for the remote. Caleb held it out of reach. "We're not done yet." The final section was the group chat messages, blown up large enough for everyone to read, the casual discussions of deception, the jokes about their clueless husbands, the planning of alibis and cover stories. The deck erupted in chaos. Richard grabbed Tasha's shoulders, shaking her. 8 years? 8 years of marriage, and this is what you've been doing?" David was shouting at Ivy, his face red with fury. "Art classes? You told me you were taking art classes." Marcus had gone terrifyingly quiet, staring at the screen as message after message revealed the depth of his wife's betrayal. But it was Brenda who broke first. She turned on Caleb with vicious anger. "You sick freak! What kind of psychopath spies on people like this?" "The kind whose wife accidentally sent him a voice message meant for someone else," Caleb replied evenly. "Did you really think you could coordinate an affair ring in a small town without anyone noticing?" Naomi was sobbing now, trying to explain through her tears. "It wasn't supposed to be serious." The girls said it was normal, that everyone did it, that it would make our marriage stronger. "By screwing a barista?" Caleb's voice cut through her excuses like a blade. "By lying to my face every single day for months?" Richard had his phone out, scrolling through something frantically. "Jesus Christ, Tasha. You told me you were training for a marathon. I was proud of you." "It's not what it looks like," Tasha pleaded, but her voice was weak. "It's exactly what it looks like," David snarled at Ivy. "You've been playing house with another man while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for your lifestyle." The arguing escalated quickly. Richard threw his wedding ring at Tasha's feet. David grabbed Ivy's purse and dumped the contents, revealing a second phone she'd hidden from him. But Marcus was the most dangerous. He approached Brenda with deadly calm, his voice barely above a whisper. How long? Marcus, please. How long? 6 months, she whispered. Marcus nodded slowly, then turned to Caleb. I need copies of everything. Already prepared, Caleb said, handing him a flash drive. Organized by date, fully documented. The other husbands immediately demanded their own copies. Caleb distributed flash drives like party favors, each one containing enough evidence to destroy a marriage in court. You're all insane, Ivy shrieked. This is private. You can't just violate people's privacy like this. Privacy? David laughed bitterly. You gave up privacy the moment you started lying to me. Naomi tried one last desperate play. Caleb, please, we can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. Don't throw away 5 years over a mistake. Caleb looked at her with something that might have been pity. Naomi, this wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. You didn't slip and fall onto another man. You planned this? The projection screen was still showing their group chat messages, a constant reminder of how casually they discussed their betrayals. One by one, the couples began to leave. Richard dragged a sobbing Tasha to their car, ignoring her pleas for forgiveness. David was already on his phone with what sounded like a lawyer, while Ivy trailed behind him, begging him to listen. Marcus and Brenda left in separate cars after a conversation so heated that neighbors' lights began coming on. Finally, it was just Caleb and Naomi on the deck, surrounded by the debris of what had once been their life together. I want a divorce, Caleb said quietly. Naomi collapsed into a chair. Don't do this. I know I messed up, but we can fix it. I'll cut contact with all of them. I'll do whatever you want. What I want, Caleb said, beginning to clean up the abandoned dinner plates, is a wife who doesn't consider adultery a form of self-empowerment. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. He showed her his phone, playing the audio recording from her car. Her own voice filled the night air. Mason makes me feel more like myself than I have in years. Caleb's sweet, but he's so predictable. Naomi flinched as if he'd slapped her. That was taken out of context. What context makes planning weekend getaways with another man acceptable? Caleb's composure finally cracked. I gave you everything, Naomi. I moved across the country because you wanted a fresh start. I bought you this house, supported your fitness obsession, and you repaid me by turning our marriage into a joke for your affair club. We weren't an affair club. You had a group chat called Bear Babes, where you coordinated adultery schedules and shared alibis. What would you call that? Naomi had no answer. On Monday morning, Caleb walked into the law offices of Catherine Webb, Brookridge's most feared divorce attorney. Catherine was a sharp-featured woman in her 50s who'd built her reputation on taking cheating spouses to the cleaners. Mr. Marsh, she said, reviewing the evidence files Caleb had provided. This is extremely thorough documentation, almost professionally done. I'm a contractor. I believe in measuring twice and cutting once. Catherine smiled grimly. With evidence this comprehensive, we can file for divorce on grounds of adultery. Oregon is a no-fault state, but infidelity can still impact property division and spousal support. The fact that she was actively deceiving you while you supported her lifestyle will work in our favor. What about the others? The other husbands? That's not our concern, but I suspect they'll be calling soon. Word travels fast in legal circles. She was right. By Wednesday, Catherine's office was handling 3 of the 4 divorces from Saturday's barbecue. Only Marcus had chosen a different attorney, one who specialized in high-conflict cases. The legal proceedings moved with surprising speed. With such clear evidence of infidelity, none of the wives could mount an effective defense. Tasha tried to claim the photos were manipulated. Ivy attempted to argue that her husband's work schedule constituted abandonment. Brenda hired an expensive attorney who immediately advised her to settle. But Naomi fought the hardest. She's claiming emotional abuse, Catherine informed Caleb during a strategy meeting. Says your surveillance constituted stalking and harassment. Caleb laughed bitterly. I investigated my own wife's suspicious behavior using legal methods. Every piece of evidence was obtained through devices I owned or accounts I had legitimate access to. That's what I told her attorney, but she's also making some interesting financial claims. Apparently, she contributed to household expenses through her fitness influence business. What fitness influence business? Catherine slid a folder across the desk. Social media posts, affiliate marketing, brand partnerships. She's claiming She earned significant income that contributed to marital assets. Caleb flipped through printouts of Naomi's Instagram account, photos of her in designer workout clothes, promoting various fitness products and supplements, posts about her journey to self-discovery and embracing feminine power. "I never saw a dime of this supposed income," Caleb said. "She spent everything on clothes, treatments, and apparently hotel rooms for her affairs." "That's what I figured, but it shows she's not going down without a fight." The discovery phase was brutal. Caleb's attorney subpoenaed financial records, phone bills, and even security camera footage from local businesses. The paper trail painted a clear picture of systematic deception funded by Caleb's construction business. Meanwhile, the social media fallout was devastating. Someone, probably one of the betrayed husbands, had posted screenshots of the group chat on local Facebook groups. The women's reputations were destroyed overnight. Elmwood Beret in Bloom lost half its membership within a week. Mason was fired from Grind Coffee after the owner learned about his role in the affair. The yoga instructor disappeared entirely, reportedly moving to another state. But the most dramatic courtroom moment came when Naomi's attorney tried to introduce evidence of Caleb's controlling behavior. "Your Honor," the attorney argued, "my client was driven to seek companionship elsewhere due to her husband's increasingly possessive and demanding nature." Catherine stood immediately. "Objection. Is counsel seriously arguing that adultery is justified by normal marital expectations?" "Sustained," Judge Morrison said dryly. "Unless you have evidence of actual abuse, counselor, your client's extramarital affairs remain inexcusable regardless of marital dynamics." Naomi's case fell apart completely when Catherine introduced the Portland hotel receipts. Not only had Naomi lied about the girls' spa weekend, but she'd used the couple's joint credit card to pay for her romantic getaway with Mason. "So to be clear," Catherine addressed Naomi directly during cross-examination, "you used marital funds earned through your husband's construction business to finance an adulterous relationship?" "It wasn't like that. You charged $847 to your joint account for a luxury hotel room in Portland where you spent 2 nights with Mason Richards while telling your husband you were at a spa with female friends." "Yes, but..." "And you documented this weekend extensively on social media, posting photos with your affair partner while your husband believed you were focused on self-care and friendship?" Naomi's attorney finally intervened. "Asked and answered, Your Honor." But the damage was done. The judge awarded Caleb the house, his business assets, and most of their savings. Naomi received only her personal belongings and her car, which she'd have to make payments on alone. Furthermore, Judge Morrison concluded, given the deliberate deception involved in using marital funds to finance adultery, I'm awarding Mr. Marsh reimbursement for all charges related to the defendant's extramarital activities. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Naomi appeared at Caleb's door. She looked terrible, thin, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that suggested her financial situation had changed dramatically. "We need to talk," she said. Caleb didn't invite her in. They stood on the porch he'd built with his own hands, in front of the house that was now entirely his. "I'm pregnant," she announced. Caleb studied her face for a long moment, then began to laugh. It started as a chuckle, but grew into genuine, deep laughter that left him wiping tears from his eyes. "Is that supposed to change something?" he asked. "It's yours, Caleb. I know what you're thinking. But it's yours. I can prove it." "Can you?" "Because I had a vasectomy 8 months ago." The color drained from Naomi's face. "That's impossible." "Dr. Peterson's office has all the records. You told me last fall that we weren't ready for children, and never will be. You said you don't want children at all." I agreed. Naomi grabbed the porch railing for support. "You're lying." Caleb pulled out his phone and showed her a photo of his medical records. "Procedure date, September 15th. Recovery notes, follow-up appointments, everything documented?" No. Naomi slumped against the railing. "This can't be happening." "So the question is," Caleb continued conversationally, "are you going to tell Mason he's going to be a father? Or one of the other possibilities?" Naomi's composure finally shattered completely. She collapsed onto the porch steps, sobbing with a desperation that might have moved him 6 months ago. "I have nothing left," she wailed. "No money, no friends, no reputation. Everyone in town knows what I did. I can't even get a job because of those screenshots. And now you're facing the consequences of your choices," Caleb said simply. "Please," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. Help me. I'll do anything." Caleb looked down at the woman he'd once loved enough to build a life with. The woman who'd shared his bed for 5 years while planning deceptions with her affair club. The woman who'd used his money to finance her betrayals and then tried to claim he'd driven her to it. "Leave, Naomi," he said softly, "and don't come back. Don't text, don't call, don't show up here again. Whatever you're looking for, it's not here." She opened her mouth, maybe to plead, maybe to curse, but he was already walking back inside. He closed the door behind him, not slammed, just shut, like sealing off a room that no longer served any purpose. A week later, he overheard someone at the hardware store talking. Small-town gossip moves fast. Mason had packed up and left town, quietly, no goodbyes. And Naomi? She'd gone through with it. Clinic appointment out of state. Someone said she'd cried in the waiting room. Someone else said she didn't. Caleb didn't ask for details. He just nodded, paid for his tools, and went home. He felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no vindication, just peace.